And so there's been so much dialogue around what are solutions to Unify, what ways we can do it, starting from where we're at. And so that brings me to my question for today's topic, because we find that there are some clients and other people we're encountering who their current circumstance or relationship, they may be abused, and it's hard to unify with somebody who's trying to clock you over the head mentally, emotionally. I'm trying to unify, trying to do what the video said, but right?
There's an illusion that we are physical entities. In quantum mechanics, I'm an energy field. Wherever I go, I'm like a broadcasting an energy. And if it resonates or is in harmony with you, my energy can affect your energy. Or my energy can actually cancel your energy. Everything is interconnected. Energies are communications. And we vibrate and broadcast just like a radio. We're broadcasting who we are out into the field, and we alter what's going on.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and today with me is Tarvars of the Sun, my co-host, and we'll be speaking more about relationships, how we relate to one another. So, Tarvars, will you start by calling for the truth so that we start this with the right energy?
Well, certainly. And we invite you all who are tuning in to call for the truth with us. Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Should we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Should we call to speak the truth, having the courage to speak the truth? Should we call for nothing less than the truth to come forth in our experience? So here we are.
Yes.
And the truth.
And the truth of relationships is?
Well, so we have been speaking for relationships quite a bit, and one of the last episodes, it was very clear on what you were stating in terms of our stance. We need to unify. There's this rift between all types of relationships, such as masculine and feminine, where there's this difficulty to harmonize, where we need each other to survive. This was part of the plan, male or female, let's work together. So, I mean, it's simple enough, right? But there's clearly something that was stopping us, and so there's been so much dialogue around what are solutions to Unify, what ways we can do it, starting from where we're at. And so that brings me to my question for today's topic, because we find that there are some clients and other people we're encountering who their current circumstance or relationship, they may be abused. And it's hard to unify with somebody who's trying to clock you over the head mentally, emotionally. I'm trying to unify, trying to do what the video said, but right? So I see that person may have to separate in order to unify with the person's or relationship to be of support for the where they're going. So would you talk to us a little bit about that? People who find themselves in that situation.
It's such a broad topic, and there's so many ways to address it. One of the things I'd like to begin with is that we've all been conditioned to be adversarial towards self. So a lot of times we talk to ourselves in such a way where we normalize behavior from others, and what we think of ourselves as what we deserve, or making excuses for others, or trying to protect others from what maybe someone says, I don't like this person because they don't treat you right. And you're like, oh, but he didn't mean it. He didn't mean it. You misunderstand. So there's this level of, this layer of, let me protect my abuser. There's this level of, you don't understand what's going on. Or also this idea of Stockholm syndrome, where I have normalized to this to the extent that I now feel like this is the normal and this is what should happen, and I don't actually recognize any level of abuse. I don't recognize that this may be against my best interests, or my children's best interests. So there's all these layers of cultivation that have happened individually and collectively as humanity. So when we think of it in the macro, we think of it through government, through medicine, through education, through religion. And all of those relationships and how we defend and normalize. No, Uncle Sam wouldn't do that. He's my uncle.
Right.
You know, like they are a hospital. They wouldn't, or, I need some place for my children to go during the day. There's all of these Stockholm Syndrome relationships we have. And so, of course, it trickles down into our individual relationships. But there's a unseen hand, or what we call anti-life of the sun. Anti-life is busy stirring the pot of differences between elders and younger people, rich and poor, black and white, and all the shades in between, and of course the genders. So there's all of these, this stirring of the pot of anti-life, of hate each other, dislike each other, pick out the things that you think you're better than them, hold yourself up as higher, don't recognize that they are you. All of that is in the pot. All of that is. And so when I spoke last time, when we were talking about this, it's like, if you see someone's trying to separate you, the antidote is get together. Find where there is common ground. Find where you can support each other. And then that changes the whole dynamic of the relationship, because once you start looking at support, it becomes clear where there's not support.
Yes.
So when you look at a relationship, an individual relationship, mother, father, sister, brother, parent, child, or lovers, when you start saying, let's come together to make everything better, then it becomes obvious what does not work. But when you're not in that mode of let us make everything better, then it's the status quo. So I know you get drunk every Friday night and you have something to say that's unpleasant and it makes me cry, and then I'm over it, and then Sunday we're at church. That's how we roll. That's what we do. And we do this for 15, 20, 30 years. And that's how we live and how we die. I encourage everyone to die alive, to die whole, without any competition, no jealousy, no resentment, no hatred, no unrequited experiences. Like, do the thing that's good for you now, instead of waiting and then die still waiting. You're still in line. You 452nd in line still. You've been in line for 35 years, So the idea of relationships has really everything. The finger points to us. Mm-hmm. The finger always points back to us. It is our own understanding, our limited understanding, our limitation that allows us to be in unsatisfying relationships, because often we don't have to leave the relationship. We have to possibly separate for a time, and then the absence will speak to the need for the relationships. That doesn't happen all the time, but it is certainly a recommended first step, is stand back, detach for a moment, and see what is life like without the person. What do they add? What is the benefit? And then reinsert yourself and see, this is something that now that I have this greater reverence for the truth, now can I find the honor, respect, and gratitude that every living being deserves? Your pets deserve dignity, honor, and respect. Your parents deserve it. Your siblings deserve it. And certainly those who you are committed to. Vibration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles, intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality. And whatever that dynamic is.
Yeah, so there's several things that you touched on. I'll take it back a little bit. And one of the things that you were speaking on earlier was this idea of when the person who's in the middle of transition, who needs that space, that time apart, like there was something that you were saying off camera about sharing information, being in each other's field, people who have slept together, just being in proximity in general. You're still picking up the same patterns and the thought waves or thought forms that are being exchanged, all of that, the cellular information exchanging with them. But once you're out of that space, maybe out of the home, just out of their field of influence, then it's like it's me, myself, and I again, so to say, or I'm in a space where I'm free of the outside influence, where I can think and see my situation for what it is. Most people don't even realize that they're being abused. I think that was something that stood out, like with the Stockholm syndrome. And because we've had clients who you would share with them, you're being abused. And they say, you're right. After looking around and like, that's right, I'm abused. I got to do something about this. But everything showed it, but they could not see it. So I think that's something that's real notable that most people may relate to.
You touched on two things I'd like to speak about. This, what I was talking about off camera was this idea that when you merge body fluids, when there's sexual activity, when the DNA is exchanged, the influence of the DNA remains with the woman for 72 hours and with the man too, depending on who's the dominant in the relationship. And so it's it's hard to see what's what when you are resonating at the same frequency as the person who you need to be able to see individually. So sometimes even a short separation of 3 to 5 days will give you a level of clarity where you're like, oh my goodness, I was thinking what he was thinking, because the intimacy of the relationship is so consistent that I never get out of the pattern. So we call it kind of Stockholm syndrome because it extends beyond that. But the principle that you said is the same, where you're eating the same food, you're in the same space, you're breathing the same air, you're inhaling and exhaling the same carbon dioxide. You're in that close proximity, you're in that frequency matrix.
Mm-hmm.
So that frequency matrix informs you to be in accord with whoever's the dominant energy. So the idea of stepping away for a moment to make a decision is in most people's highest interest. And we're not saying this is a divorce, but it could be the pre-divorce. Or it could be that, no, we're going to marry again because now I can see who I am and who they are. Now we can come together consciously and make conscious decisions where I'm not just being informed by your strong frequency field. So that was the first part of what you were saying. And then I think, would you remind me, what was the second part?
Yeah, so the second part was the idea of not being aware that...
Oh, yeah. Not being aware that you're...
in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, we live in a world where we're pushed around a lot. We live in a world where people tell us what to do. Like if you go in to see a doctor and the doctor encourages you to stay and do something, and you say, well, I don't want to. And they say, well, you have to sign this document that says we won't be responsible. So there's this level of fear being, the same thing. If your child doesn't do this, then this is what will happen to you and your child. There's a lot of that in our world. And because of that, we've become normalized to this level of aggression, to a certain level of subjugation, a certain level of aggression that has normalized us. So when our partners or the ones that we're committed to in our family or whatever the relationship is, when they start like, I need you to give me all the money you have, or I need you to do what I tell you to do because I said so, it begins to normalize in the effect of the macro experience of being pushed around, of being subjugated, of being not needing to be in accord, not being asked, not being in agreement with things. And so when it happens in the relationship over time, somebody says, well, my boyfriend doesn't like that and he doesn't want me to do that. And I'm like, okay, so what do you want to do? Well, I don't want to do what he doesn't like. That's not the same thing as saying, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So that it becomes quite normalized, and in the dynamic of the world we live in and what we hold in cultural experiences for the masculine and the feminine and in the different dynamics, it often makes us a victim of our own acceptance. So we're using someone as an instrument to abuse us.
Most certainly.
Because of our own internal constructs that are in agreement with someone else making our decisions.
So this connects to what we were speaking on last time about how the component of oneness is so important to have.
Yes.
To be able to see your connection to this person, what they're mirroring back.
Yes, and once you do that, then you can be in proper respect. The idea of the sun is honor, respect, and gratitude. We are in respect of the principle of life, where everything is free to grow and experience itself, and that it is best if we do this together in a harmonious way. But it is necessary that we do this not through separation and fear, but through joining together in a willingness to be one with one another.
Okay. So you up for doing a call for the truth card?
I am, and I happen to have my cards.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to think of a question, and I'll shuffle the cards for our conversation today. And I'll give you the cards in just one moment. These are the
Okay.
call for the truth cards, layered with many layers of truth. And do you have your question?
Yes, asking to see the truth as it relates to navigating our relationships. Okay, the theme is power. And this is solar plexus. The elusive true source of personal power is in living an authentic life. I'll read that one more time for the people in the back. Power is the theme. The elusive true source of power, the elusive true source of personal power is in living an authentic life. And so I think this is good because the authentic life that is needed is one that's where we're not making choices based off of another person or what they think. Literally what you were just sharing. Like this person, their choices are influenced on whether or not they will make the person mad or upset or please them. And it's not that we should not consider others, but she's not considering herself. Mm-hmm. We're not considering self. So all that solar plexus, that ego identity, and at the same time, we all want power.
Yes.
I haven't met anyone who doesn't want it.
That's because it is our divine birthright to be in power. But Earth has not been a great place to learn about that until now. We are powerful beings that have been suppressed. And at every level, our food suppresses us. Our thought patterns suppress us. Our cultural identities suppress us. They don't have to. There's a truth beyond what we are limited by our own limitation in what we think of ourselves. But power is our natural state. you are all encouraged to be powerful. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again with honor, respect, and gratitude in Lakesh and Veritas, oneness and truth.